You are not stuck because you do not know how to change. You are stuck because some part of you still believes you must keep being who you are in order to stay safe. I know that may land in a place you usually keep covered. I know it may feel too direct, but maybe that reaction is already showing you something. Maybe this is why your old identity is blocking your new version. Not because the new version is impossible, not because you are broken, not because you lack discipline, but because the person you are trying to become keeps asking for a freedom that the person you learned to be still reads as danger. And when danger is what your body expects, even a better life can feel like a threat before it feels like a blessing. I know what it feels like to promise yourself that this time will be different, then watch yourself return to the same tone, the same silence, the same apology you did not mean. You tell yourself you will speak honestly, but when the moment comes, you soften the truth until it cannot protect you anymore. You say you are done accepting crumbs, then you answer the message. You say you are ready to choose yourself, then guilt walks in and suddenly your own need feels selfish. You want to begin again, but the moment life asks you to act like someone new, your body searches for the old script. You call it being careful. You call it being realistic. You call it maturity. You call it just the way you are. But what if that is not your true personality? What part of your life do you call your personality when it is actually an old way of not being hurt again? Maybe it is the way you avoid hard conversations because honesty once made you unsafe. Maybe it is the way you shrink your desire before anyone can laugh at it. Maybe it is the way you pretend not to care because wanting too much has embarrassed you before. Maybe it is the way you accept less than you know you need because the familiar still feels safer than the unknown. And I am not here to shame that part of you. I know it was built for a reason. I know it once helped you survive rooms where being fully yourself would have cost you something. But maybe what you call loss is only the beginning of something you have not yet had the courage to finish inside yourself. Maybe the version you keep defending is not asking to lead anymore. Maybe it is only asking to be understood before it can step back. By the end of this, I want you to understand why your new version cannot fully stay while your old identity still makes the decisions, chooses the relationships, edits the truth, and measures every desire against the fear of being rejected. And before you try to change again, before you build another routine, before you blame yourself for falling back, you need to see this clearly. The block may not be in the future you want, but in the identity you are still protecting. I want to say this carefully, because you did not become this version of yourself by accident. You learned, you adapted, you watched what happened when you were too honest, too excited, too needy, too different. So you became someone who could read the room before speaking, someone who could sense rejection before it arrived, someone who could sense rejection before it arrived, someone who could lower expectations before disappointment had a chance to enter, someone who could look calm while carrying pressure no one else could see. And for a while, that may have worked. It may have worked. It may have helped you belong. It may have helped you avoid conflict. It may have helped you avoid conflict. It may have helped you keep love close, even when keeping it required you to leave parts of yourself outside the door. And maybe that old agreement still shows up in ordinary moments that no one would call dramatic. You rehearse the hard conversation while brushing your teeth, then send a softer message 10 minutes later. You start the project with real energy, then disappear when it asks you to be seen. You feel embarrassed for wanting a bigger life, so you dress your desire in practical language until it sounds smaller. You choose the road you already know, even when it hurts, because at least you understand the rules of that pain. You apologize for changing your mind. You laugh when something actually offended you. You say, "I am fine," not because you are fine, but because explaining the truth would require a version of you that you have not learned to trust in public yet. I think of someone like Marina, 32, sitting on the edge of her bed after a Tuesday that looked normal from the outside. There were emails, traffic, small conversations, a dinner she barely tasted. Now her phone is in her hand, and a message is waiting from someone who always pulls her back into the same role. She wants to write, "I cannot keep living like this." She wants to stop decorating the truth so it will be easier for someone else to receive. Her chest tightens. Her thumb hovers. Then she deletes the sentence and types, "It is okay, I understand." And the strange part is that she feels angry at herself and relieved at the same time. Angry because she knows she abandoned herself. Relieved, because telling the truth would have required her to stand inside a new identity she does not fully trust yet. So no, I do not think you are weak. I do not think you are lazy. I do not think you are simply inconsistent. I think an old part of you is still trying to protect you with the tools it learned long ago. The problem is that protection, when it is never updated, becomes a cage with familiar walls. And the first pattern you have to notice is resistance disguised as wisdom. It says, wait. It says, be mature. It says, do not risk too much. It says, choose peace, even when it really means choose silence. Before I ask you to see it differently, I want you to know this. You did not create that pattern because you wanted to suffer. You created it because, at some point, it helped you get through. But what if moving forward now feels like betraying the version of you that survived? Maybe the H you keep calling failure is not failure at all. Maybe it is transition. Maybe the discomfort does not mean you are on the wrong path. Sometimes it only means your old identity has lost control, but your new version has not fully taken the wheel yet. That in-between space can feel strange, because one part of you wants freedom, and another part still believes freedom will cost you belonging. One part wants truth, and another part remembers what happened when truth was not welcomed. One part wants to grow, and another part keeps whispering that growth may make you too visible, too demanding, too unfamiliar to the people who knew how to love the smaller version of you. So you stand between two lives, not because you are confused, but because both versions are asking for your loyalty. Real wisdom protects you without paralyzing you. Fear dressed as maturity always asks for more time, more proof, more guarantees, more silence. Wisdom observes. Fear delays. Wisdom chooses with presence. Fear chooses only to avoid feeling. And your old self rarely sounds cruel. It sounds practical. It says, do not expect too much. It says, do not say that yet. It says, you have always been this way. It says, people will not understand. It may even sound calm, reasonable, adult. But what if those thoughts are not guidance? What if they are old rules written during a season when being yourself felt unsafe? Maybe the hidden pattern is not that you cannot move. Maybe the hidden pattern is that every time life invites you to expand, you first check whether expansion will threaten the identity that helped you survive. So ask yourself this, and do not answer too quickly. In what recent situation did you say, it is okay, while your whole body knew it was not okay? What were you afraid you would lose if you responded the way your new version would respond? And what old identity did you have to put on in that moment so you could stay accepted, loved, or not confronted? These questions are not here to punish you. They are here to reveal the invisible agreement between who you were and the life you keep repeating. Maybe you had to become agreeable to avoid rejection. Maybe you had to become quiet to avoid criticism. Maybe you had to become low maintenance because needing more once made you feel like a burden. That pattern makes sense. It has a history, but the fact that it makes sense does not mean it should keep leading you. Because here is where it becomes impossible to unsee. What part of your life do you call your personality when it is actually an old way of not being hurt again? The silence you call peace may be trained surrender. The patience you praise may be fear of taking up space. The loyalty you defend may be self-abandonment wearing a noble name. The I do not care you repeat may be desire wearing armor. I am not asking you to become ready in one breath. I am asking you to notice the exact second you leave yourself. The second you edit the truth. The second you make your dream smaller before anyone else can. The second you choose the old script because the new one would require you to be seen. And once you see that second, something begins. Not comfort, not certainty, movement. Now breathe for a moment. Not because what you just saw is small, but because seeing yourself clearly can shake the ground beneath you. When you stop resisting, you do not become a completely different person overnight. You begin in quieter ways. You notice the tiny betrayals against yourself that used to pass as normal. You notice the pause before you answer from habit. You notice guilt walking toward the driver's seat, and for once, you do not hand it the keys. This is not the dramatic kind of change people applaud from the outside. It is quieter than that. It is the private moment where you realize you are allowed to respond from the person you are becoming, not only from the person you became to survive. This is where change becomes real. You pause before saying yes. You stop explaining a decision that does not need a courtroom. You leave the message unanswered until you know what you actually mean. You refuse the same old role in a conversation that has always expected you to shrink. You hear the guilt, but you do not immediately obey it. You let someone misunderstand you without rushing to manage their reaction. You choose one honest sentence instead of a full performance. And even if your voice shakes, you let the limit remain. That is how a new identity begins to become believable. Not through a perfect reinvention, through repeated evidence, through small moments where you prove to yourself, I can stay with myself this time. Fear dressed as maturity asks, what if this goes wrong? Real wisdom asks, what is staying the same already costing me? That question changes the room. It turns your attention away from the danger of growth and toward the price of repeating yourself. Maybe your old identity was like a house that once protected you from the rain, but now the walls are too close for the life trying to enter. Maybe it was like clothing from another season, once useful, now tight around the shoulders. Maybe it was like an old key that still opens old doors, but cannot open the next chapter. You do not need to hate that house. You do not need to burn the clothing. You do not need to curse the key. You only need to stop pretending they still fit the life, asking to be lived now. And maybe the next version of you will not arrive with certainty. Maybe it begins with one honest answer, one quiet no, one moment where you let someone be disappointed without rushing to rescue their image of you. What small choice are you still delaying because it would prove you have changed? What conversation are you avoiding because you know it would end a version of you? You do not need to erase your history. You need to stop living inside it. You do not need to become fearless. You need to become less loyal to the fear that has been calling itself wisdom. There comes a point where life stops asking for explanations. It asks for a silent decision. Keep protecting who you were, or make room for who you are becoming. You were not only procrastinating. You were not only confused. You were not only lacking discipline. You were trying to be born while still protecting the identity that once kept you alive. And I know how heavy that can feel, because a part of you may still love the old version. Not because it gave you peace, but because it helped you survive the seasons where peace was not available. It helped you stay quiet when honesty felt unsafe. It helped you lower your hope before disappointment could reach it. It helped you become acceptable in places where being whole felt too risky. So of course letting go does not feel simple. It can feel like saying goodbye to the only protection you knew how to trust. But listen to me closely. You know where you still shrink. You know which conversations you keep alive out of fear. You know where you pretend to be calm so you do not have to face the change waiting behind your honesty. You know when you are choosing the old path only because the new one feels unfamiliar. And this is the line you were moving toward from the beginning. You are not losing who you were. You are finally letting go of a version that has already served its purpose. Not with hatred, not with shame, not with some violent rejection of your past, with gratitude and with a boundary. Because a version can be honored without being obeyed. A pattern can be understood without being repeated. A past can be real without remaining in charge. No mask, no hiding, no return. Presence. Let the new version begin quietly if it has to, in a different answer, in a smaller choice, in an honest refusal, in a boundary that trembles but stays. Let it begin in the moment you stop over-explaining what your body already knows. Let it begin when you do not trade your truth for approval. Let it begin when someone expects the old you and you do not perform it for them. And if this touched something in you, tell me, because I want to keep building this path with you. Follow me here. When this video ends, do not rush to distract yourself. Let the final screen stay for a few seconds, like a small space between who you have been and the choice waiting for you now. What part of you is still trying to protect a life that has already become too small for the person being born inside you?